In 2026, a TikTok trend that started quietly in 2024 has exploded into a full-blown movement. It's called Underconsumption core. The premise, instead of showing off what you bought, you show off what you don't buy. Old clothes you've worn since high school, a 7-year-old hairdryer, furniture from your first apartment that still works fine, skincare products you actually finish before opening a new one, coffee made at home. The aesthetic is anti-aesthetic. The whole point is to look ordinary in a world that demands you look extraordinary. And here's why it's blowing up. In the US, rent has risen 135% since 1999, while incomes have only risen 77%. Inflation has compounded. Healthcare costs keep climbing. Gen Z and younger millennials are doing the math and realizing they cannot out-earn this, so instead they're trying to out-frugal it. The trend now has a sibling movement called No Buy 2026, where people commit to buying nothing non-essential for an entire year. Both trends share one thing: they're a generational rebellion against consumerism itself. Now here's what most coverage misses. This isn't a new idea. A book published in 2018, The Year of Less by Cait Flanders, documented exactly this experiment 8 years before TikTok made it trendy. And today, I'm going to review that book honestly, what it actually says, what's revolutionary, what's overhyped, and whether the underconsumption movement in book form or in TikTok form is genuinely a path to financial freedom, or just a vibe. Welcome to Earnings Per Page, where I distill the world's best finance and personal development books into honest breakdowns. Hit subscribe. Let's get into it. First, the premise. The Year of Less is a memoir, not a how-to book. Cait Flanders was a 28-year-old Canadian woman, deep in consumer debt, dealing with alcohol addiction, and tired of feeling out of control with money. She committed to a year-long shopping ban. The rules were simple. She could buy consumables, food, toiletries, cleaning products. She could replace items that broke. She could not buy clothes, books, electronics, takeout coffee, or any kind of decorative or recreational purchase for 1 year. The book chronicles what happened. Lesson 1. Shopping is rarely about the item. Within weeks of starting her ban, Flanders realized something uncomfortable. Most of her purchases weren't about the things, they were about the feeling. She bought clothes when she was bored. She ordered takeout when she felt lonely. She bought books she'd never read when she felt anxious. Stripped of the ability to shop, she had to face the underlying emotions directly. This is the most important insight in the entire book. Consumer culture has trained us to use spending as a coping mechanism. The credit card became the emotional regulator. Cut it off, and you have to actually deal with whatever you were avoiding. Modern psychology calls this emotional spending. The data backs it up overwhelmingly. Studies consistently show that spending under stress, sadness, or anxiety provides only minutes of relief, followed by guilt, debt, and the cycle repeating. Lesson 2. The 80-20 rule of stuff. Flanders documents how halfway through her shopping ban, she did a massive declutter of her existing belongings. What she found was striking. She used roughly 20% of her clothes 80% of the time. She used 20% of her kitchen tools, books, gadgets, and decor. Most of what she owned was just visual noise. The lesson: the version of you that consumed all that stuff was responding to marketing, not to genuine need. The actual life you live requires a fraction of what's already in your house. Lesson 3. The crossover from saving to wealth. Halfway through the book, Flanders runs the numbers. She saved over 18,000 Canadian dollars during her year of less. That's roughly 30% of her income. For most North Americans, that's the difference between paycheck to paycheck living and actually getting ahead. The math here is undeniable. The average American saves around 4% of their income. The underconsumption movement pushes that toward 30, 40, even 50%. And savings are what give you the option to actually leave a bad job, a bad relationship, a bad city. Savings are freedom. Lesson 4. Identity over restriction. This is where Flanders is genuinely insightful. She argues that the people who succeed at long-term frugality don't see themselves as restricting. They see themselves as having different priorities. The diet metaphor applies. People who treat eating well as deprivation almost always fail. People who genuinely become someone who cares about their health succeed. Same with money. Don't be someone trying not to spend. Become someone who values experiences and savings over things. This connects directly to the identity-based habits framework from Atomic Habits. Different mechanism, same idea. Now, what I disagree with. Let me be honest. First, the book is highly personal. Flanders is reflective, vulnerable, and writes beautifully. But because it's a memoir, the lessons sometimes get buried in her personal narrative. If you want a clear, structured guide to underconsumption, this isn't the most efficient choice. Books like Your Money or Your Life are more systematic. The Year of Less is better as inspiration than instruction. Second, the book underestimates the difficulty of underconsumption in certain life situations. Flanders was single, child-free, and worked from home. Her Year of Less was structured around a lifestyle that's already minimal by default. Try this with 3 kids, a long commute, and unpredictable work demands, and the framework requires major adaptation. Third, and this applies to the entire underconsumption movement, frugality has a ceiling. If your income is genuinely too low for your area's cost of living, no amount of underconsuming will save you. The math doesn't work. For underconsumption core to be a path to wealth, rather than just a path to bare survival, you need at least enough income for there to be fat to cut. For too many young people today, that's not the case. Now, does the underconsumption movement actually work? Honest verdict. As a mindset shift, yes, absolutely. Treating purchases as deliberate choices, not reflexes, will improve your finances and your mental health. As a path to financial independence, yes, if you have enough margin in your income to make the savings meaningful. As a viral aesthetic, be careful. The danger is that underconsumption core becomes another aesthetic to perform online, buying things that look frugal, performing minimalism instead of actually living it. The trend can quietly become a different kind of consumerism. Final verdict on the Year of Less, should you read it? Yes, especially if you felt the burnout debt trap feeling we covered last week. It's not the most actionable finance book, but it's emotionally honest in a way most finance books are not. It's short, readable, and it will make you confront your own relationship with stuff. My rating, 8 out of 10, loses a couple points for personal narrative pacing and the privileged lifestyle base, but the central insight, that spending is rarely about the item, is the most important reframe most consumers will ever encounter. If this hit, subscribe to earnings per page. Next week, I'm breaking down a book about how to actually thrive on a low income, not by underconsuming, but by structurally redesigning your money. Drop a comment with one thing you commit to not buying for the rest of 2026. See you in the next one.